G'day, you want to throw a shrimp on the barbie? Well, in this case, this particular shrimp is Howling 3, the Marsupials, from 1987, directed by Phillipe Mora, who made a bunch of cool Ozploitation movies in the 70s and 80s, including this one and Mad Dog Morgan. And he also directed Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf, another memorable entry in the whole Howling series. And incidentally, for fans of things like Frontline, Australian television, Australian cinema, Phillipe Mora is also the brother of Phillipe Mora, who played Martin DiStasio in Frontline. A little bit of Australian television trivia there for you. But we're here today to talk about Howling 3, the Marsupials, a movie that's always had a bit of a place in my heart. It always kind of made me a bit starstruck, I guess you'd say, because you'd go to Sydney as a kid and see all of these locations that were used in the movie, especially the locations surrounding the Harbour Bridge and places like that, and the inner city, so quite recognisable locations in this one. So this one has little to nothing to do with the original Howling, which of course was directed by Joe Dante and based on the novel by Gary Brandner. This one was based on a Gary Brandner novel as well, but I've never actually looked much into that one, and I highly doubt that it's about marsupials. So I'm guessing that it's just basically more so based on Gary Brandner's intellectual property than anything to do with pouches or marsupials or thylacines. But Howling 3, the Marsupials, does take place right here where I am in the land down under, Australia, more specifically New South Wales, my home state, and where I am right now. And even more specifically, it takes place in Sydney, of course, for a bit of it, and also in the outback as well, as we all know, if you've seen the movie. But Howling 3, the Marsupials, it is a odd little duck, quite like a platypus, if you'll pardon that analogy. So basically it's about marsupial werewolves living in the outback of Australia, under the radar. They're led by this particular pack of marsupial werewolves are led by a guy called Philo, who's been in a ton of Australian Ozploitation movies, ton of Australian television. You'll know him if you see him. And it centres around his niece, I believe it is, Jaboa, who plays the marsupial werewolf love interest of the movie, the love interest to the token American leading man, which was a big fixture of Ozploitation back in the 70s and 80s. Apparently you couldn't have an Ozploitation movie without an American cast member, whether it was Henry Silver in Thirst or Jamie Lee Curtis in Road Games. The list goes on. You always had to have an American actor in these Ozploitation movies, apparently, to get funding and to get the amount of clout that are required for foreign audiences to check out an Ozploitation movie. So we start off in the outback, of course. This marsupial werewolf clan, they're kind of living like a commune, I guess you'd say. They sort of remind you of the marsupial werewolf Manson family, in a sense. The parallels are pretty hard to overlook. Led by patriarch Philo, and Philo has relations throughout the movie with his own relations, of course, one of the more awkward plot points. But it also leads to another plot point that Philo is looking for a bit of a freshening up of their bloodline. I guess they're sick and tired of having six-fingered marsupial werewolf children. So the call's been put out, and a Russian werewolf clan arrives on the scene in the form of a Russian ballerina, and she's apparently intended to add new blood to Philo's marsupial werewolf clan. So to say this movie's an oddity would be an understatement. It was always quite unusual, even when I was a kid. It was unusual, even though I was young and impressionable and open to new ideas and new concepts. It still struck me as a stark raving mad movie, but not that that was a bad thing. So the rest of the movie involves Thylo's niece, I believe it is, Jerboa, who's the love interest, of course. She goes to the big bad city to escape this hellish life of incest and pack marsupial werewolf mentality. Goes to the city, bumps into a American production assistant, I think he is, who's the love interest for Jerboa, and also the token American cast member. And they're making a horror movie, of course, in Centennial Park, of all places. And it's being directed by none other than Frank Thring, who some of you will remember from a lot of Australian television and cinema, most notably probably from Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. So Frank Thring's the director. They cast Jerboa as I guess you'd say, as a scream queen. And everything looks rosy and dandy. But of course, it is difficult to hide the fact that you are a marsupial werewolf, of course. And in typical Australian style, the powers that be are going to deal with these feral animals in the usual manner, which is things like baiting and hunting and blowing up. That's the Australian way. So it sort of degenerates into a, I guess you'd say, almost like a predator sort of scenario with all these militia and hunters out in the outback hunting down Jerboa and Thylo and the whole werewolf clan. And it's really a existential fight for survival from the werewolves in this movie. So hopefully I've given you a good flavour of what it's about if you haven't seen it. It is definitely one of the highlights of the Howling franchise. Believe it or not, I prefer it to the first film, which probably sounds like blasphemy, but maybe I'm a bit biased because it did always have a sentimental place in my heart. Every time you'd go to Sydney, you'd be walking past these locations like the fountain in Centennial Park, round the base of the Harbour Bridge, which they probably use more often than would be plausible in people's day-to-day interactions in Sydney, but they always seem to be hanging around the Harbour Bridge for some reason. But that is what it is. It was probably part of some contract, and they were making the most of shooting days, I guess. So this movie's chock full of Australian film and television cameos as well. We have Australian film critic, the late great Bill Collins, who used to host movie nights basically here on Australian television, and most notably his most hated movie was Caddyshack. So that gives you an idea of what he was like. He was kind of like the Roger Ebert or the Siskel and Ebert of Australian television. So Bill Collins is in it, and a plethora of Australian identities. Barry Otto plays the scientist, the academic that's trying to save the werewolves in this one. Barry Otto is also a veteran of Australian cinema and the father of actress Miranda Otto. And you've also got, as I said, a veritable bunch of good character actors, people like Frank Thring, of course, and Bill Collins, and the list goes on. Let me know in the comments any others that you recognise. They're not springing to mind right now, but it really is a who's who of Australian television character actors in particular. So quite an unusual movie. The mythology of this one's great. I find it very cool that Phillipe Mora sort of included marsupials and the extinct Tasmanian tiger in the lore of this movie. There's some very cool, essentially Australian production design, very indigenous looking production design. There's an awesome werewolf and costume design, for example, with the indigenous member of the werewolf thylacine marsupial clan, the guy that yells out, "Let's throw a shrimp on the barbie." So he has this great look where he's covered in ash and ochre and paint as a werewolf, and that's very quite cool for those interested in Australian culture. So it's a fun movie. It's a movie that doesn't take itself seriously, but I think that in retrospect it was taken more seriously than the filmmakers and the actors and everyone involved have sort of alluded later on. I don't think they had their tongue planted as firmly in their cheek as they'd like us to believe now. I mean, they were definitely going for a horror comedy vibe, but I don't think that all of the comedy in this one was intentional, which is always great and always works much better than an intentional horror comedy. So that is Howling 3. You've probably seen it, I'm guessing, if you're a horror fan or a fan of strange and unusual cinema or a fan of underground interests. If you haven't seen it, I'd definitely recommend checking it out. Do yourself a favour, as Australian music historian Molly Meldrum would say. And if you enjoyed this video, let us know your thoughts on Howling 3 if you have seen it, any details I might have skipped or missed or glossed over, any other notable cameos in this one that you can think of. Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, by all means, please like, share and subscribe. And I hope to see you next time, and I hope you'll take it very easy.